We are joined on the phone line by ANN7 business editor, Mr. Clive Ramathibela Smith. Good afternoon to you, sir, and thank you for joining us here. There's a lot of questions around the timing of the NPA summonsing and charging the Minister of Finance. Just talk us why there are so many questions around the timing of this.
Top of the afternoon to you, Abigail, and thank you very much joining you live here from the Gallagher estate in Midrand. Just to give you a sense of what actually happened, we were sitting in and Minister Gordhan was giving a speech here at the open tender. She was the keynote speaker on the seminar for 2016, and as we were all listening in, and he just mentioned things, but we was picked up because he kept stepping out and stepping down and going behind the stage as if he was talking to somebody over the phone. And immediately when he started his speech, he started talking about the fact that 45 minutes ago he had been issued to the summons. Somebody was at his house and they were there to actually provide the summons to him. And then immediately he said that those people left there and went to his offices in Pretoria at the National Treasury to deliver that summons to him, things that he obviously was not aware of because he was here attending this particular seminar. Now, why is it that the RAND reacted so negatively towards that? Well, I want to be honest and straightforward with you, Abigail. The RAND did start to depreciate early on this morning at 9 o'clock when the stocks actually started opening. The reason behind it has to do with the fact that the dollar itself has strengthened and gained a lot of momentum following some good data that came out of the US. But not only that, we started to see the Asian market as well coming on strong. Japan coming back from a holiday with a very strong performance. And we also saw the Chinese market, who are, by the way, they've just come back from a weeks-long holiday. And so they came back very strongly. However, they did not create the enough attraction that is required. The third final reason why the RAND would have taken a little bit of a hampering would be to the fact that the oil price is looking very, very strong. If you have picked up, we are now at $53 per barrel, which was unheard of. This is the first time in more than 2 years that we find the oil price beating that mark of $53. So those are the main reasons why the currency would have actually taken a little bit of a dip. But I must add that it is no surprise that even after that, the fact that the finance minister had been issued the summons did contribute to instability again in the political sense, and obviously international reviewers such as our rating agencies will be looking at this with a close eye, and it just doesn't bode well with what we're trying to achieve as a country and trying to avoid obviously the downgrade that could be coming our way before December hits. So that's what worries a lot of market commentators as we speak.
Clive, on the issue of timing, there's a lot of talk around the fact that this summons has been issued about 15 days ahead of the pre-midterm budget statement that is set to take place. Are there concerns around this?
There is something, Abigail, about the market and how they work. You know, we always say it's time in the market as opposed to timing at the market. That's normally what people refer to when they do a diversification of their investments. In this particular case, it is no surprise that this would have come at any time. It wouldn't be surprised if it happened in June. It wouldn't be surprised if it happened in August. But the minister did try to draw a parallel to the understanding that it's 15 minutes before the budget. And so, therefore, it does bring about the fact that, well, will his midterm budget actually be approved or will be accepted by Parliament? Because that's where it has to go before it can actually be finalized. The question is, has he not put in maybe some of the things that he believes that certain individuals, and we're not going to say who, but because we don't understand what's going on, but he believes that there's this influence within government to try and influence him to do certain things. What is quite interesting, I must add, Abigail, is that not only the timing is important, but the mere fact that this budget is probably the most important budget that South Africa has ever had to face, just after the one that we had after Minister in Finance, previous former Minister in Gordhan was removed from his seat. So what this does is it just brings back those tensions, those times, those days about 9/12 that we still remember very clearly at the back of our heads, that this is what happened, this is how the RAND was plummeting at that particular time. We would not want to see such a thing because it will have catastrophic results, especially for the bottom end of our economy, which is already struggling. We're trying to get to 0.4%. That's a new revised growth pattern, but we don't know how solid and difficult is it going to be for us to get to that particular determination.
Clive, on the topic of the South African economy and the rand, South Africans have always been very vocal about their concerns in the investigation of the Minister of Finance. Some see him as a savior of sorts for the South African economy. How much of an impact do you think this summons and investigation, the charges and his day in court will have on both the rand and South Africa's economy?
Well, we all know that we are all equal before the law, and that's what we want to do. We want to keep doing that. That is our predominant structure. That's what confines or defines the constitutional democracy that we have, that everybody is equal before the law, and so we want to keep that intact. And that means even the Minister of Finance, should there be an investigation, should there be charges against him, he should also just adhere to the law. So the question, therefore, is it an appropriate time, especially after what we experienced, to be discussing these kind of things? Was there a more moderate way that it could have been handled? The answer to that is yes. There could have been a much more effective way of handling this matter. It shouldn't have been a public splat. And what it's done now is created even more hair-raising issues about the strength of the South African economy, but more specifically National Treasury itself. So the question is, what do you do when you're a finance minister and you find yourself with these charges? Well, the best thing to do is to continue doing your job, but answer to the authorities that you're required to be answered to. And what was quite interesting about the seminar where I am today, Abigail, is an open tender seminar 2016. Gauteng is driving the open tender system, is targeting 30% by the 2018-2019 fiscal year to make sure that all tender processes within government are open, transparent, and lack of corruption is going to be eradicated. So that's what we want to see. That's why the minister was here to urge everyone, businesses, entrepreneurs, everybody, and state institutions within the government of Gauteng to say this is what you need to do to be more transparent and attract more business. But at the same time, he says, and this is the minister's words, he says, we need to make sure that these things continue to happen and to curb out the dirt out of our democracy. And that's exactly what he said, and I'm hoping that this would have resonated a lot with the government, with the people that were in attendance here. So, but it is a very much of a concern to each and every one of us.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much, Clive, for your time this afternoon. Clive Ramathibela Smith, ANN7 business editor, just chatting to us about what was said by the Minister of Finance during that address, also giving us some details with regards to the minister's behavior on and off the stage when he got notice of that summons. The Minister of Finance will have his day in court on the 2nd of November. Some shock, though, the NPA has summoned him over Evan Pillai's early retirement and not necessarily the SARS rogue unit. We've got our eyes on the story. We will keep our viewers up to date. But let's get